If it's not clear, we're a fucking gem, and you should follow us and share us as much as you can, because we don't need like assholes like Hasbro or whatever stealing any more of the spotlight. Support indie creators, support Tim and Michael, support design thinking games in 2024.
It's time for an adventure in the worlds of user experience and game design. On Season 4 of the Design Thinking Games podcast, join old school UXers and aspiring game designers Michael Schofield, Tim Broadwater, and an array of quirky characters, from pixelated heroes to mischievous NPCs, in search of the ultimate player experience. Design thinking is a process that is applied to different types of games in this podcast. If you're wondering whether your favorite games have already come up, you can listen through the backlog at designthinkinggames.com. Now, Rapid Protobot, fire the design thinking laser.
Tim, it's been however long since the final episode of the last season that we've come together in a recorded situation to greet the loyal followers of Design Thinking Games. We went to PAX Unplugged for the second year. Was this year 3?
This is year 2. We took Thirst, the board game, there. So this is the second year we play tested it there. And as the recording of the show, we've also play tested it at Unpub Prime in Baltimore. In regards to Game of the Year, I believe Game of the Year went to, Alan Wake? Is that right?
Game of the Year was Baldur's Gate, actually.
Holy shit. I may be misremembering then. There's so many years now. So let me actually confer with the winners.
There were 6 games up for Game of the Year.
I've played 3 of the ones that were nominated of the 6. I own another one, but I hadn't played it yet. So I played Legend of Zelda, Tears of the Kingdom. Oh, it is so good. Cried so much. Super Mario Brothers Wonders is amazing. Marvel Spider-Man 2 is amazing. And people have suggested Resident Evil 4 remake to me. They're like, if you only ever play one remake in your life, ever, play Resident Evil 4.
I was kind of worried about coming into this topic because I don't feel like I've played a lot. My last couple of months have been pretty work heavy, board game heavy, but I've actually played the other 3. So I played Alan Wake 2, Baldur's Gate 3, and Resident Evil 4.
How is that serendipitously possible? We never even talked about this.
I think these evenly fall on either side of the games that we
you or
tend
I
to
like.
play anyway.
Yeah.
Alan Wake is a kind of like moody cinematic horror. Baldur's Gate is Dungeons and Dragons. And Resident Evil is horror. That's the only one I'm kind of surprised you haven't played yet, because I'm sure you played the original.
Yeah, so no, I want to play Resident Evil 4. It's been recommended to me.
It's wonderful.
Marvel, Spider-Man, when it won Game of the Year X number of years ago, all of the games in that series have been like, oh my gosh, so good. And you're right. And I played Nintendo Novel, or groundbreaking. And so there had not been a side scroller in Nintendo for Evolution since New Super Mario Brothers Wii, which was back on the Wii. So on the Wii or the Wii U, way back in the day, that was the last time they advanced Mario's technology. We're going to put 4 people on the screen at the same time, but that's it. That's since then, no new innovations. And what they did here was phenomenal. Like, they used music and alternate realities, and then also just a lot of different cool things to make it challenging in different ways that you wouldn't think, but make sense for Mario. And of course, I love me a open world adventure. So I'm always down for Zelda.
I think way back in season 1, we broke down how you like an open world and how I don't. I prefer kind of like the linear thing.
I want to customize my shit, all my shit.
Exactly.
So I want to, if you give me the way that I can play my character, just give me the tools. I don't want it to be simplistic to the point to where it's like Minecraft or Valheim. I don't know, whatever the game is.
Valheim,
yeah, to where it's just like, no, you've got to dig for wood and metal, and like you've got to sew and weave, and it's like, no, dude, that's way too much. But I have nothing against that level of crafting, but I'm talking about like the way I can play and stack my character or class and powers, and then fluidity there is also important. Most people want to experiment, like, oh, what is this maxed out in this trait? But you don't want to be like, I'm locked into this forever.
Yeah, exactly. And I want to be penalized for the choices that I make. So I guess we'll end with kind of like Baldur's Gate 3.
Yeah, so you speak to it. How was it?
It's fine. My appetite for high fantasy declines every year. I thought it was really impressive. I also thought it was really, it's not for me. I got pretty bored as I went.
How dare you, sir? How dare you? How dare you, sir? Here. I'll slap you with my glove, D'Artagnan.
My TikTok algorithm is like a little bananas, but right now I'm back on D&D TikTok. And right now D&D TikTok is like, oh, the Dragonborn. And I'm like, fuck the Dragonborn. The Dragonborn sucks. Screw this high fantasy bullshit. You're all losers.
Mine is like my TikTok algorithm is definitely political anarchy. I feel like it's also board games, and then it's science, a lot of science and astrophysics. So it's like that's me apparently.
It's like Hank Green SciShow, Curvin from Board Game Talk, this poet guy that you send me every so often who wavers at the camera and is like, I know nothing to be true. Life is just a struggle between living accountants and dead poets. I love that guy. But the meta of Baldur's Gate 3 winning is that in a way that other games might win for like being the most amazing artistic experience or have the most amazing narrative. I look at Baldur's Gate 3 as winning on the merit of craft.
Everything. Yeah.
I can't imagine the sort of like logical pivots the system has to make.
Of course.
And it's so expertly well done, and the team isn't huge or AAA.
If you stumbled onto the station, welcome back. Your host, Mr. Graves, returns with a brand new collection of terrifying tales designed to chill you to the bone.
Make the biggest discovery this world has ever seen.
Help! What is happening to me?
We also have an assortment of characters that are just dying to meet you.
It took him to hell.
Can you understand us better now?
You may need to leave the light on for this one. Your Horror Show, Season 2, premiering on all podcast platforms May 14th. Listen, if you dare.
Maybe we can like just really quickly use this opportunity to sort of dovetail into what we've been playing, because we played some of these. Kind of in this downtime, I've been playing Sons of the Forest since one of its earliest betas, and now I believe it's finally released to like 1.0. And that is exactly that kind of game. We're like, oh my gosh, you want to build a fire? Well, you better go chop down the trees to do it. And then you have to chop the wood. And then you have to get stones to create a fire pit. And all the while, cannibals are like stalking you like throughout.
I'm sorry. You didn't rub your flint with your stone? You need to go find flint. And it's just...
They give you like an electric lighter, which totally feels like it cheats. Now, like you're right. I think my real experience would be like when it starts to snow and I found myself like stupidly like in the mountains chasing some treasure. I expect to not be able to light a fire and just freeze to death. That is exactly the kind of game that I want to play. You know?
What surfaces to me since the last time we played is I played Dredge, of course, and I think we talked about that last season. And I played like, at the end of the year, I really got into, which I don't even think we talked about a little bit, but if we didn't, we did. I played a lot of time in Dave the Diver. So Dave the Diver is this roguelike to where you're doing these randomly generated things and performing and increasing your skills and whatever. But then you're like, oh no, you're a diver and you're getting fish and sharks and all this underwater materials and treasure and like refuge and scrap from whatever. And your fish are going into a fish hatchery and it's supplying a sushi place. And then you run the sushi place and the fish hatchery. And then you're like, oh shit, I need a farm. in addition to have carrots and vegetables, but I need my own
This
rice.
is totally up your alley.
Yes, of course. So I got lost in this, of course, for months because I don't know why I'm like, oh, I need to do chores but there's something about it that is tranquil to me that is just like zenning out. But Dave the Diver sticks out to me the most. When I was talking about Spider-Man 2, like literally that was recently here. I just beat that like this month. And so that was the story for that took forever. I will say my obsession, if you follow our accounts, I apologize. I'm recently obsessed with Lorcana. It's a TCG. So it's the Disney one, and they just announced yesterday, like in May, they're dropping Encanto based Lorcana cards, and then they have all this other stuff that and so it is just like hits like all the Disney as well as I will say I also played recently the board game Bank Heist. We had them on the show, Lonely Hero Games, and so Bank Heist I played with family. I had it, but I just never played it for the longest times, and it's really good. I would highly recommend if people played it.
Thirst is a 2 to 4 player vampire versus vampire game of Dominion in which players become powerful, monstrous, and bloodthirsty vampires. Rise from the graveyard hungry to find that you are not the only creature of darkness in town. Fight other vampires for dominion over neighborhoods and for influence. Hunt, but hunt wisely. The first vampire to accrue an influence score of 10 wins and can finally slake their thirst. Thirst is on Kickstarter. Sign up to get notified of its launch at thirstboardgame.com. Find Thirst and other things we're working on at designthinkinggames.com.
Yeah, and apart from what I spoke to earlier, Super Mario Brothers Wonder, really, we've just been spending a lot of time play testing and working on our game.
It's possible that the last time anyone heard about this game through the podcast, we were so heavily calling it like corporate vampire. But we went to PAX Unplugged for a reason, and it was the second year we went to go play test the game that we're now calling Thirst. Now, one of the upshots of having playtested at PAX 2 is that we ended up spending some of that time with an Ars Technica writer, Kevin Purdy, who sat with us during the playtest and wrote about that game. And officially, I believe that is the moment that title Thirst was entered into the public.
Yeah, and we fully intend to give credit to the person who said, you should call it Thirst, because that was the best ideas come out of playtesting. We have been playtesting the heck out of it. We were talking the other day about how many playtests and versions of the game we've had, and then we're like, we've had to at least have tested anywhere with 30 to 50 plus people already, different people. Have play tested the game. So with that many people have tested, it's just been crazy. And so we just got back from Unpub Prime in Baltimore and had 3 different play tests of it there. And people were asking about, when is this going to be available? When can I buy it? And so that's very good. And a lot of the things we have are just like cleaning up and working with an illustrator. We've found someone great. We're now like breathing, holding our breath. And so I think the episodes this season will speak to our journey a little bit and the people we're talking. But universally, this is a thing that you just have to go through yourselves, and you have to go through it for the first time, and and just experience it. And you can plan and your best and try to plan your best. And we're going to try to do it the smart way.
The episodes to follow this, we're going to be exploring a lot of the different thinking and craft and emotions and obstacles involved with the logistics of getting the game into people's hands. So if we are building unintentionally this kind of like narrative arc, where last season we're talking to a whole bunch of people who are involved in making games and designing different kinds of games from zero to their first playtest, here it almost seems that we're going from playtest and beyond. And I think folks are going to find this incredibly interesting. What seems to be true is that, gosh, unless you're, like a AAA funded like publisher, a lot of these folks are just people like us, and we're figuring it out in a co-evolutionary way together. And one of the things I think we're really excited to be able to do is to pick the minds of people who've already been there. I think this is going to be our best season. I thought last season was our best season since. And the interviews that we have already kind of like in the hopper and scheduled are going to be like super informative and fun, with the reintroduction of like D12, the return of Rapid Protobot, and our consistently amazing theme music. Shout out to Zach Lubo, who gave us the idea. Hey, the last thing he said before he left our table, you should call this Thirst. I went and found my journal entry for December 2nd, 2023.
I'm making a sticker right now, Zach, so you know that this will get added. I am old school.
He also said, first testimonial of Thirst in writing, it was a hard-earned pleasure to be the first vampire killed ever.
That's a pretty good one. I've been talking to Ben and Effect Games on TikTok. He's amazing. You can follow him. He told us how to make this as close to real as possible. So we print on glossy cardstock, and then, okay, let's print on sticky paper, and then mount that sticky paper to like paperboard or, kind of foam core, cut it out.
The goal is to emulate as close to a real experience as possible before we actually begin production and selling, where you feel like you're unboxing the game and you have the things, and you're also, very importantly, playing by yourself and your friends and not being guided how to play by me or Tim, kind of like staring over your shoulder.
As the listeners may know, last year, we were doing a Patreon, and if you supported us on Patreon, you got the episodes ad-free and early, which was cool.
Anyone who's been like listening with us from season 1 and who will enjoy season 3 know that we are iterating a lot. And one of the big things we're iterating on is like what we're spending time on. There's probably like a whole interesting episode or like side thing about like why we chose to back off Patreon, but we backed off Patreon. We would love it if people would donate to us.
Please head over there and support us if you like. We're going to put some content and stuff there, but it's not going to be exclusive.
But where can people find Design Thinking Games, the podcast? They'll definitely want to subscribe, because by the time we release this, guys, we've already produced almost all of the episodes. And so the cadence of these interviews are going to be coming out like with such professional consistency that you'll want to be on the feed. Tim, where can they find Design Thinking Games?
You can always go to designthinkinggames.com, and it is on every podcatcher of choice except Google Podcast, because they're going away. Wah, wah. But if you've opened Google Podcasts recently, they've now said, like, you need to migrate to YouTube.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. And they're like, you got to go to YouTube Music. Are you going? Because you won't be after this date. And Android is literally just, bam.
They're retiring that like they did with like Google Reader.
Yeah. So yeah, I've already migrated over to my podcasts are on YouTube Music, where you can also find us.
Probably our most active social media is TikTok, where Tim puts his face out on the internet in a way that I don't. And it's actually like a really good account because Tim plays a shit ton of games, and it's not just self-promo. And of course, through us, the gatekeepers of all board game TikTok, you can find a myriad of different creators.
The bullshit is so deep now.
What say you, What say you, Rapid Protobot? That's right. I think one of the gems that didn't come out that didn't get the play that I really think it deserves from last season is the Design Thinking Games audio drama that we dripped out through the end of the episodes, and I think compiled together on like a TikTok or something. Excellent piece of art, I think, in which effectively your heroes, Mike, Tim, and Rapid Protobot, end up at a board game conference that is taken over by LARPers and their too powerful imagination. And if it's not clear, we're a fucking gem, and you should follow us and share us as much as you can, because we don't need like assholes like Hasbro or whatever stealing any more of the spotlight. Support indie creators, support Tim and Michael, support Design Thinking Games in 2024.
Thank you for listening and connecting with Design Thinking Games on TikTok, Twitch, and Twitter. You can also check out designthinkinggames.com to request topics, ask questions, or see what else is going on. Until next time, game on. Any final thoughts for our listeners, Rapid Protobot?
Destroy. Destroy.